We're joined right now on RealAgriculture.com by Drew Lerner with World Weather Incorporated. Welcome today, Drew.
Well, thank you very much.
Well, Drew, you very accurately predicted last time we talked that the next 6 weeks were going to be quite wet for Ontario farmers, and that came very much the case. It's definitely been a very challenging spring. Corn planting is way behind optimal times, with being somewhere around 70% completed. What does the next 6 weeks kind of hold in store for Ontario farmers?
Well, I think we're not going to do too bad, I think, for the next 6 weeks. There's going to be a tendency for the eastern portions of North America in general to have a regular occurrence of showers and thunderstorms occurring. We're going to have some ridges of high pressure coming and going periodically over the U.S. Midwest, and they will obviously bringing some warmth into the southeast corner of Saskatchewan and southern Quebec, I think, on a regular basis. So I think we'll have a pretty good mix of weather, and it should be pretty supportive of crop development in that particular part of the country. And I really don't see anything at the moment that just jumps out. We've had some significant flooding, in the Montreal area this spring, and we certainly are seeing that go away, and that's probably a really important thing. But as far as anything like that coming up for the summer, I don't think that we're going to be faced with anything like that. I think it's going to be a good mix of weather, and the crop should do very well.
One of the things that some farmers are concerned about here is that we've had a very, very wet spring, and now if you look at this week, the humidex is like 38 for some parts of this week. That all of a sudden the oven's gonna get turned on. It's gonna get very hot, which potentially we would get for crops. We're still gonna need some of those rains through the summer period. What are you looking at for the summer?
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that's way out on the limb this year. There's a lot of talk in the marketplace about all of a sudden going hot and dry and reminiscence of some of the drought years in the past. I think we need to be really careful and look at the hemisphere with a little bit more of a microscope here and take a look at what's really going on. Number one, the hemisphere is not nearly as warm as it was, let's say, in the 1980s, which I think the marketplace is all hooked up on 1983 right now. I don't believe that the atmosphere is going to be capable of being as warm as it was in the 80s. And for that reason, supporting a very strong, persistent, high-pressure ridge is not going to be very possible. Most of the northern hemisphere this spring has exhibited a pattern that shows the warming of the hemisphere occurring about anywhere from 1.5 to 3 weeks later than normal, depending on where you are. So that kind of suggests that we're still going to be dealing with some coolness around. We also see the something called the Arctic oscillator. Let me try that again. We will see the Arctic oscillator running negative once in a while. And what that basically means is there's going to be a stronger region of high pressure in the Arctic that will push colder air into lower latitudes periodically, which means that this tendency for coolness to come through North America will continue periodically. Yes, we'll have our periods of warm weather, and it will get hot every once in a while in Ontario, but I don't believe it's going to be any kind of a persistent feature. And because we do have the cold shots that are going to be coming and going, will likely induce some rainfall as that cold air runs into the warmer air that will already be present across the region. So a pretty good mix, I think, and the evolution is going to be really fine for crop development, I believe.
Well, it sounds like reasonably good growing conditions for the corn and soybean crop. I guess one of the things to think about, or one of the things that a lot of farmers here are considering, is that we're getting some later planted corn than normal. What potentially could be the story for Ontario's fall?
Well, certainly the potential for cold weather coming back in the autumn is still pretty high. Because we do have these shots of cooler air that's going to come around. At one time, we thought maybe La Nina would manage to reassert itself and show back up before the autumn season was over. And if that were to happen, then we would have a warmer finish, and that would have taken care of that concern. But La Nina is not coming back, at least not before the growing season's over. And for that reason, this hemisphere that has a cooler bias to it at the moment could very well generate some colder air during the wrong time. And so we do have a risk, I believe, of some frost and freezes coming at the wrong time before we finished up some of the crop development there. And this is something we need to keep an eye on. I actually am in the middle of that research now, and over the next few weeks, I will continue that process. The study is something that, at this point in time, has not turned up a very large amount of solid evidence of having a freeze early or having one late. But I am concerned about the general condition of the atmosphere. There's still an awful lot of coolness around. No area in the northern hemisphere has really seen any extended period of warmth right now, and I don't think we're going to see much of it. And as long as that's the case, when we do start to push the sun back to a lower latitude, and that will occur, of course, beginning in August, the odds are going to be relatively good that we'll be able to muster up a fairly decent cool air mass that'll come and run across all of Canada.